Thank you, everybody. And I think on behalf of Manisha, Samohan, and all my colleagues, and Teamwork Arts and Garage, and all our colleagues here, a big thank you for making JBM, the Jaipur Bookmark, so successful. This particular construct of doing a festival directors roundtable came about pretty much in the beginning because we had so many people coming in from across the world and taking inspiration from the Jaipur Literature Festival and then taking it back to their cities or countries and setting up new adventures, whether it's the Bay Area Book Festival in Berkeley or Sala or whatever. And we just felt that this is one time that we could come together to discuss some of the key issues that impact us. So what impacts festivals? Money. Funding is always a big issue. A control of the narrative is today becoming much more of an issue than even funding because everything tends to be connected to that. And we've seen what's recently happened in Adelaide. We've seen what happened in Hay and Wye a few years ago in the Edinburgh festivals, which led to sponsors withdrawing their support, sadly. And the third is the complexities of writers and what they say and what they speak and how they feel and how they wish to be projected and how they wish to see themselves in platforms like the festivals that we have here. So complex issues, this is not about finding solutions or having a magic wand, but really it's for us to share how we've tackled some of these problems so that we can go back inspired, we can look at good practices amongst ourselves, but also, as I keep saying, we also keep a little black notebook of authors sometimes that we don't want to invite back for all of the wrong reasons. So this is really about a sharing of ideas. So my request to all of you is what's discussed here mostly stays here. This is a session that we don't necessarily broadcast or telecast because we feel it's very private. I'm going to start with Govind Deecee because Govind has a flight. He is literally on the eve of his festivals. For those of you who haven't been to Calicut, which has one of the best restaurants in the world, which is Paragon, which is the reason I finally landed up going to Calicut some months ago. But Govind and Ravi Deecee of Deecee Books not only are publishers and are booksellers, they have how many bookstores? 54 bookstores in Kerala and around, but they also run what is now seen to be Asia's largest festival. It has about 500,000 people who come through its doors. It's on the beach, so it's a stunning setup in Calicut. So Govind, how do you navigate the idea around the politics of any festival? You're in Kerala. Kerala is in literally in the heart of political activity. It is, for notionally, a communist state, but it's also a state that likes to be feisty when it comes to its writing and conversation. It's much influenced by a Spanish or Latin American writing of revolution. So to avoid a revolution on your beaches, what do you need to do?
I don't think we have to avoid a revolution. Maybe it's the ideal that I think most people in Kerala still strive for. I have to say that initially, and we still get good government support, but over the years, as we scaled, government interests have also sort of tried creeping in, and that has been one of those harder things to navigate. Each minister that has his or her own interests have something that they want to achieve with the festival, and we always have to navigate it in very delicate ways. This is an issue every year, but I think the larger thing that we are now looking at is audiences are very picky about the people that they vouch for. So whether it's an author who may have the slightest association to a certain ideology that might be considered bad, we get immediate feedback, and we're at this cusp where should we start doing all sorts of background checks? And this isn't necessarily about talking about Me Too and all those things, but it could be something as much as that guy was at this particular event hosted by so-and-so entity, which seemed problematic. And we get immediate feedback. I don't think I can explain the gravity of it, but even last week when we announced this particular author, all on social media, we got immediate feedback saying, that guy was there. Did you not see it? Why are you platforming this? And it's not easy to navigate that, because to respond to that on social media invites just more comments, and it just becomes this spiraling thing. So there's no one solution to it. We just have to take it one at a time. You definitely can't be silent, because at some point, what you do on, when you take a certain action, people will see it and they say, okay, it has to apply across the board. Whereas the cases are more sensitive than that, and we can't always explain all these things. So that has been an issue. Navigating it, I'll have to go through so many anecdotes to explain how we did each. But
this year, Govind, you all have Salman Rushdie.
We didn't announce it yet.
You haven't, sorry. This is completely unannounceable. But he is going to be there. How are you navigating that?
Well, he's not physically there. It's online. I think he would not want to be here physically. But when we announce, I'm pretty sure there will be backlash, and our team is sort of bracing for impact, so to say. Calicut, as liberal as it is for a town, also has an extensive population that are of Muslims that are sort of in the right wing. So I know some of it will come back, will hit us. We were very sensitive about the sponsors we onboarded this year because of that, because we know that some of them will have issues in that sense. So we've made certain assumptions on which sponsors might have problems, and without telling them more that Salman's there, we've said, this year this is the plan, so maybe we'll come back next year. The good thing is we've never had anybody that's paid us a large amount that they become title sponsor or ever so powerful. So there were years where some people would not be able to come, but then the next year, because what they're giving us are not a huge sum, we could always bring them back. So we've made assumptions on the sponsor side that way. Obviously, we've told authorities that we will be doing this. And good thing is, I think the local MLA, and even from the Chief Minister's office, we were told, that's great, don't worry, we'll figure this out.
But is it also because the president of the Communist Party, MABB, is so well read? I remember when I first went to have breakfast with him about 18 or 19 years ago, he showed me all his collection of Marxist revolutionary books.
I have to say that, government support on that level is good. Ideologically, we're not, the alignment is easy. They're very supportive of the things we do. Obviously, ministers have their interest, and that's the finer things to navigate. But in general, government support has been positive, whether it was them helping us build a permanent venue or getting us permits. We had Anand Teltumde in 2020, and he was very worried of coming because police protection was something very important. When we mentioned that to our police commissioner, he said, let me send 5 people over to his house. We will escort him all the way down. So they brought him down by car. So we do get that sort of support occasionally. So, it's not that the government is against us or has vendetta against us. It's that there are finer things that we need to navigate, and those are the tough ones.
Those are the tough ones in cancelling. So in case you have to step out, so thank you so much and best wishes for the festival, and look forward to seeing you, and thank you for being here. Hannah, Australia's been in the eye of the proverbial storm. Not necessarily your festival, but Australia has. And I think, how do we today manage this idea of that a particular point of view is acceptable or not acceptable, and therefore needs to be cancelled or be left out? And can you just set the stage for us, because you're fresh off the boat from Australia? Tell us what's happened there. Tell us what plagued the decisions that the Adelaide Festival took in this particular, and if you'd like to set the context or what happened in Bondi Beach before that, please.
Hi everyone, my name's Hannah. I'm the Associate Curator at the Centre for Ideas. And as Sanjoy just said, there has been quite a controversy recently with the Adelaide Writers' Festival, which takes place usually in March every year. It's a highly regarded festival. It has an excellent program that features diverse voices. And in this instance, the board has rescinded an invitation from Randa Abdel Fattah to attend because she's Palestinian. But if we delve deeper into that, maybe there have been some commentary from her that wasn't in alignment with their values. So that's kind of the situation that has unfolded that then led to 180 authors cancelling their participation, which basically
It started with a few, then it grew to 50, then it grew to 100, then it grew to 112, 140, and now I think most of the program.
Which is basically the whole program. What are you going to do? So now...
Barring 11 authors.
Yeah. And now the director, Louise Adler, has left the organisation. She's quit because she didn't agree with the board's decision. And she believes in the integrity of the program and freedom of expression, in that we will feature writers that we may not agree with, but we have to have a space for these discussions. And she said in an interview, you know, you don't have to go. If you don't agree with someone, don't attend their session. Or do, and have a debate, have discussion. Writers' festivals are places for these discussions to happen in an orderly way, in a safe way. And if we can't have that, then really, what do we have?
Are writers people who polarize audiences? Is that the reason why in this particular case a writer was cancelled? And how do you, in your own festival, navigate some of these issues, especially the voices of the indigenous Aboriginal people?
I would say that writers are somewhat polarizing just because we all have different opinions, and once we put pen to paper and put that out into the world, we can see those stark perspectives. But I think as a community and as humanity, we need to progress past that and understand that we're not always going to have cohesion, but we just need to learn how to disagree and be okay with that. What was the next part of that question?
How do you navigate, negotiate with First Nation writers, the Aboriginal writers in...
Well, first and foremost, we need those voices on the boards, which there were Indigenous voices on that board, I have to say.
And on your board?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. They need to be at all levels of society, basically, and influencing all decisions, so we can, I guess, make sure that we're moving forward in a way that represents repressed people. And so in our program, we make sure that we're always consulting with the Indigenous community, just to make sure that their voices are heard and that things happen in a way that's kind of representative of everyone.
Will you share with us a little bit about the UNSW festival, where it's based, how many people, how do you plan it, which time of the year, so that we're all aware?
Yeah, so I'm actually based at a university. We run programming year-round, so even though we're here at a festival, the program is quite similar, but the format is a little bit different. We welcome around 12,000 guests per year, and the kind of crux of the program would be looking at society, trying to work out points of cohesion and where we're kind of falling apart. Indigenous knowledges, we have like a big Indigenous program. And yeah, just trying to bring people together, trying to create community, trying to create these kind of spaces that we're in now.
Thank you. Mastura, thank you for coming all the way from Malaysia. Kuala Lumpur and many of the areas around Malaysia, beautiful. You must be having a really difficult time because censorship, religious conservatism is some stuff that you have to work your head around when it comes to writing or poetry or protest theatre. How do you manage that? Tell us a little bit about your library network as well, and what's the kind of books that are allowed there, and what can you not stock?
Okay. Thank you, Sanjay. Hi, everybody. My name is Mastura. I'm from Selangor Public Library in Malaysia. Selangor is quite near to Kuala Lumpur, the capacity. First of all, Sanjay, maybe I have to tell a bit about my background. I worked at the Selangor Public Library in 2008, and we call it a rebranding journey. Because normally people see library just for you to borrow books and all that. But we changed that perspective, and we're trying to get the buy-in from the policymaker, our chief minister, to give more budget, to give priority and all that. So what we did, we changed the perspective for the libraries, not only talking about books, but you can have all the skill, the activity. That's why we organized Selangor Book Fair, started in 2006. And Alhamdulillah, in 2022, our Chief Minister asked us to upgrade to International Book Fair. That is the first time I went to Frankfurt Book Fair. When I arrived in Frankfurt Book Fair, become the first time, I was so amazed, even though it's after the pandemic. Instead of 12 halls, they said it's reduced to 5 halls. But still, it's so huge for me. And one thing that I noticed in 2022 is that most of the trades is about children's books. It's like a booming business, and which in Malaysia is not really, it's a bit quiet on that. So because of that, not only that we try to learn from that, we start our International Book Fair in 2022, learn to the fellowship program and all that by the help of Malaysia Book Council, helped me. Then we immediately do the Selangor Children Book Fair. Only in Frankfurt I noticed that how important is children. All of us, the young parents, is facing problem how to raise our children, to have good values, to be able to speak up the truth and all that. So that's why in 2023 we create the Selangor Book Fair, and 22 Selangor International Book Fair. Then how I get to know is that Jaipur is through my friend Geeta. She said, you have to come here about literature. I'm learning, because actually I learned about all this literature through when I worked at the library, because my background is take a degree in economics. So after I've gone through the 18 years rebranding journey, what can I say is that I remember the first thing when I joined the library, the vision is a world-class library. I said, we need to change. So I changed to library is a life learning center that develop a spiritual, intellectual, and emotional, so that give value. And how we going to educate the young people, the young parents, to have a good values, and that will buy safety. Even though you are a rich person, but you cannot buy safety. You have to be balanced your life. You have to be able to give the less fortunate family a chance to learn and all that. Then, since in Malaysia we have 13,819 libraries, so this is what we did. Now we are trying to get all other states to rebrand, and we did organize this book fair. Is for give the skill, and also I learned about the book industry. And now I'm learning about literature, and I hope that many people from Malaysia, from Selangor, can become like you guys. Sanjay, I mean, I'm really impressed, because I can see the food industry here. People can earn from the food industry, from this literature, the hotel, everything, the tourism. So it's fantastic. So I'm really amazed, and I'm really thankful to God that I met you today, and you invited me to express. And I hope that we can work together, and we'll like to invite everybody to come to Selangor, because one of our Royal Highness in Selangor really love and crazy about library and museum. So that's why I attend your session just now. I'm really, so that's basically, thank you.
Mastura, but tell us a little bit about the difficulties of negotiating voices, and what is it that you can or cannot say, because much of it has to be contained within the larger issue of religion.
Yes.
and censorship in Malaysia.
Yeah, because we in Malaysia, we have multiracial, we have Indian, Chinese and Malay. And sometimes the political side, 50 years ago it never happened. But nowadays it's a bit difficult because the political people seems to play the game of this religious, of a Chinese, Malay and all that. But how are we going to do this? And when I speak to them, try to convince them, I said, look here, what we are dealing with is education, is children, full stop. No background, I think. It's about the children. So when I say that, then they make sense and they start to cool down. And I just tell them how many the special needs that we have to be taken care. How about the people live in the low-cost apartment? How's their environment? Then what we did, we already opened one, we call it transit-friendly library in the low-cost apartment that have all the best facilities, including they have a shower, they can eat, a pantry, everything. After school, they can do their homework. And one of the reasons why sometimes the students don't want to go to school because they're scared they cannot finish their homework. As little as this. So this is what the library is doing now. So at the same time, we try to find any of them who love to become a writer or a musician. We have like sound studio in our library. We have maker space and everything. Any skill that you need, name it and we do it. Even we engage somebody, a chef, to teach them how to do simple things and read books about cooking, and they can do it. So that is what
Thank you.
we did. Thank you.
Janet, you're the sort of must-go-to festival on anybody and everybody's list. It's set in Ubud in Bali, but Bali is part of Indonesia. And you too have challenges, and you've had more and more challenges in recent times. So tell us a little bit about, how many of you have been to her festival at Ubud? Oh, so you have had people who've gone to Ubud. So the rest of you have to wait to get invited. But give us the setting and tell us some of the challenges that you've had.
Thank you, Sanjoy. I'm so excited to come back here. Actually, I was here 2 years ago, and then, of course, I was here in the early days. So it really is the greatest literary show on earth. It's fantastic. Anyway, back to Ubud. Well, I guess the big difference is it's like a family-run festival. It's a private festival, and it's mine. So, first, we don't have a board, although, as Hannah said, maybe my husband's the board, but, you know, he's the board. So it gives us a lot of freedom to choose who we would like to invite. And our festival is all about diverse voices. The history of the festival is that it was born from the Bali bombings. So some people say it's a human rights festival posing as a writers' festival. So we've always got that strong human rights, humanist kind of ingredient. You know, the whole festival is based on change makers, and we believe that, or we feel that everybody who leaves the festival, we want their perception of the world to have shifted a little bit. Yeah, we've had some interesting experiences. Probably when we chose to commemorate 65 in 2015, because I'm not sure if you're aware of the genocide of Indonesia at that point. It was a really tragic part of their history that, of course, the government doesn't really like to talk about. So there were a number of events that led up to their discovering that Ubud was going to discuss these issues. And because in order to run our festival, we need many permits. We start months in advance. We have to go to, the local government, then Denpasar, then Jakarta, and then, this all takes a process, lots of meetings and cups of coffee and sweet cakes, etc. And we also have to submit our program, which we've always done, and I guess we submit it in Gianyar and Denpasar. Look, to be honest, I don't think they read English. So we've always had that kind of freedom. But what alerted them in 2015 was the number 65. They're like, hang on a minute, because they'd had a lot of unpleasant experience in the Frankfurt Book Fair. Everybody was discussing this. So suddenly it became an issue where it went from one department to the next, and it's like, oh, no, no, they can't tell people about this. So the situation became that, we could run the festival, but they were not going to give us a permit. And anybody in Indonesia knows if you dare run any event without a permit, you're in big trouble, because, day one they might just walk in and say, that's it. So, our commitment was to the general whole. We thought we can't just take that run and then risk all those punters who have bought tickets, the writers, etc. So, for me, I treated it as a bit of a game, and thought the whole reason for the festival was the power in the written word. The pen is mightier than the sword. That's my mantra. And so, we were having conversations, blah, blah, blah. But what we did was we sent out to all media, I think it was midnight on Friday or something, the festival was starting Wednesday night, a very well-worded press release, sort of underlying the fact that we were being censored. And of course the Western world, that's like a red light, censorship. So that year we received so much publicity. I think the government and various departments, I know one of them rang my husband midnight the next night or something and said, why did you do that? So everybody was so upset. So it became this very interesting festival where the one thing we were not supposed to talk about was 1965. Even to Endi Bayuni, who was giving the keynote address, I said, there were a lot of secret police in the audience. I said, you probably shouldn't mention 65. So what did he do? He talked only about 65. So the whole festival, everybody talked about 65. So it was the best outcome. And I think I learned from that writers' festivals generally are very powerful machines. And I felt with the Ubud Writers' Festival, it's the mothership. It has a lot of power, and it's a bit of that don't mess with us kind of thing. So we're not in the same boat as Adelaide. We kind of run to our own kind of music, and we've learned to play the game. We've learned to navigate. We've learned, when we write the program, maybe there's some words we should change to others, but essentially we've survived and grown stronger from those kind of situations. And I like to think that, they kind of can't touch us. We invite whoever we like. We're in Bali, so it's like neutral territory. I like to think of us as the Bandung Conference, where we're bringing all sorts of voices together and kind of challenging the powers that be. And touch wood, so far, so good.
So an international festival in a Hindu kingdom in a Islamic country. And being able to do something like this is really quite extraordinary. Give us the setting. Give us the Half Moon Restaurant or Full Moon Restaurant. Or whatever.
You'll be with us this year. Well, the festival started at Indus, our restaurant in Sangangan, which is just outside of Ubud. We try and keep the daytime activities out of the centre because we do have a slight traffic issue, a little bit like here. But our whole thing, like with you, is every venue has to have the wow factor. We want to think that every venue, people walk in and just go, yeah, wow. So there's sort of many levels to that. So we tend to use, if we can, not your regular sort of venue. So there's Indus Restaurant. Now we've opened up next door, which is land that luckily we own. So we have two other venues there, which some of the venues aren't outstanding, but the view is amazing. And then we bring it into restaurants. My background is hospitality, restaurants. I write about food. So everything we do has a lot of food. We have long table lunches, dinners, cooking classes. We also do tours up the mountain into some of the other regions where they have different food. So we try and expand the program into other little areas, and just make it magical, because it really is magical.
So a must-go-to place. Chandni, until recently, you were at the Jagger Fort. You were the museum head there and the director there. You now moved on to your new job, but you also gave birth to the Jagger Heritage Festival. Working with bureaucracies are never easy. It's never easy in your past job or in this job. When the bureaucracy is also palace-driven, it's even more complicated. So I'm putting you on the spot here. So how do you navigate when you're creating something new? How do you navigate it, and how do you bring to life in the way perhaps that the walks that you and your husband have been doing, how do you bring to life these built heritage spaces and give us a sense of their history and everything that goes, oh my God?
Well, Sanjoy, yes, you do put me on a spot here, but I think this is what I enjoy, challenges. And so I stick out here like a sore thumb. I'm an architect. I don't come from the literary world, but art and culture at large. And I think the starting block for me has always been the passion. I think I'm born in the wrong time. I would have been much at home some couple of centuries ago. So I think that's what my calling is. But you start realizing when you walk into spaces which awe you or which make you stop, that is something that you would want to share with people, right? Because you want to share that sense of wonder. It is, I think, also the reason why each of these festivals that you are all associated with started in the beginning. Somebody wants to share their love for books, somebody wants to share their love for learning, and the passion that you harbor, and when that can incite in someone else the same sense of wonder is what drives each one of us. So I think that's been my motivation all along. But bureaucracy, well, I think I started, I was a quick learner. My grandmother's been part of that very same bureaucracy, and so has my mother. So I think I learned from those two how to navigate early classes right from your childhood as to this woman works like this, and there's an exchange that you see. So I think as I'm the BTS person, the behind the scenes person in a festival. What I have realized is that bureaucracy is easier to handle if you simply catch what makes them work, like what makes them move. It is about the basic stakeholder assessment. They are your biggest stakeholders. They give you your permissions, they give you your support, your funding comes in from them. Sometimes the ideas also come from them, because you're looking to make a difference, and if you understand from the support system, the government, or previously the palace, so the mandate was clear, they want to make a difference. So how best do you use your skill set, your passion, and your motivation to keep working even when there's no other support? I think that's the most important there. So it's only being like water, you keep falling onto this rock and you're going to make sure that it makes a mark. So it's just being at it. You keep at it, whether it's sponsorship that comes with strings attached, whether it is negative press, which I think any press is good press. There's nothing called negative press. It like catapults you right there onto the fore of people's minds, so they talk about you. So I think it's just taking things in stride and finding what makes you work, what makes them work, and try to strike a sweet spot. Sometimes you're successful.
In a very male-dominated space, are there hard lines that are drawn in the sand?
Yes.
Again, in terms of the bureaucracy, in terms of the gender issues, in terms of power and control, and how do you negotiate that? Because ego, when it comes to egos, finally at the end of the day in spaces like this, you are the woman.
Yeah, so you just be twice as good as the men folk are. I've been very lucky. I do come from a position of privilege, came from a well-positioned family, came with very strong female support systems, and they've been my inspiration. And yeah, I think it's just being stubborn being twice as good, being stubborn, and knowing when to, rest your case. I think you choose your battles. Sometimes you remain stuck at the smallest things because that's what drives you and that's about ethics. And sometimes you just let it go and you make somebody else the poster child simply to get your way through. So in sticky situations like this, you mentioned my husband, I let him take the mantle. He does the talking, I do the thinking. So yeah, that's a balance we've struck. But I've been very lucky. I wouldn't say that it's all my hard work. I do come from a position of privilege, at least in this city, and that's worked wonderfully in my favor. So I've just got dealt a good set of deck of cards, and then I've tried to build upon what I've been handed. So yeah.
Jesús, you come from Madrid, which, for those of you, how many been to Madrid? Yeah, I mean, the food, the place is just amazing. And every place in and around Madrid is equally enchanting. But the challenge of a big city that's quite challenging to do a festival, because unlike, say, even Jaipur when we started, which was smaller, or an Ubud, or a Hay-on-Wye, or a Mysuru, these are smaller places. And I've always said, London is not a festival city, but Edinburgh is, or Hay is. Paris is not a festival city, but Avignon is. Madrid is not necessarily a festival city, but some of the places around you, Toledo and Valladolid, or Segovia, or San Sebastian are. So tell us some of the challenges of that. And the second is, with Franco, with the passing of Franco, Spain moved, and now we are seeing again a rise of the right. And I've seen this more and more in my conversations in your country, twice or thrice of the year that I come, that there's much more desire to have order in the way that Franco or people think that they had order. Is the memory of the revolution, or is the memory of a very controlled system, has that faded, and therefore people are inspired to relook and want the right back?
Yeah, thank you, Sanjoy, and thank you for gathering us in this wonderful meeting.
Sorry, thank you, Govind, and best wishes from all of us.
Thank you. Well, Spain is one of the, I think it's one of the countries in the world where freedom is lived intensively. And to get back to the point of Franco, I always make a distinction in Europe, because we didn't choose that. I mean, if we compare to Italy or Germany, when the fascists came in Italy and Germany, they mostly came because they were elected by the people. And before the war, civil war started in 1936, the fascist party in Spain had this amazing figure in the parliament, Zero. That's why fascism in my country was imposed violently. They understood that they had to take it in a violent and through war. So Spain is a country that breeds freedom, that wants freedom, that desires freedom, that is a kind of being in the world, to be free. And that's why all the ghosts and all the menaces we have around is because of our will to be free. And that's why Madrid is kind of a symbol of that. And that's why Madrid has a lot of platforms in which dialogue and freedom of expression is natural. And plus, nowadays, in Spain, through the last 30 years, we have been aware that we're not only an European city, but we are the Latin city in Europe. I mean, the Latin American immigration has made it, we were a Latin city always, But now we are a total Latin city in Europe, and 20% of the population is Latin, and they do a lot of works, and a big part of those, that 20%, they are creators, they are writers, they are filmmakers, they are musicians. So imagine that power, that creative power in the city deserves these platforms of dialogue and present Madrid as a Latin capital with a very strong voice. And when you invited me here, Sanjoy, I was willing to make these, kind of alliances between this Latin global world and this eastern part of the world, because we think we are now in a moment that we need a challenge. We were talking before about revolution. It never ends, and mostly, and now, as all over the world is people willing and trying to impose involution, we need to keep on with our revolution. And revolution is not another kind of a dogma of left-wing dogma, communism, nothing like it. The revolution now, it's platforms where we can speak out loud and we can express, and we can, as she said, tell a writer not to do something, because if you want him to do, he will do it. To just tell him not to do it and not to speak about it, they will, because we are always rebelling about situations. So now I think, gathering all together here, I think we have to be aware of what Anna Applebaum talked about yesterday. We live in a threat of a fascist plutocracy that wants to shut our mouths again. And we can't allow that. And we have to move, and we have to stand in our platforms of dialogue in order to speak out loud all the time and be free. We don't have another choice but to fight in this situation morally. And Europe, we don't want to be part of the 30s again. We knew what that brought. That brought apocalypse to our continent. We don't want to live apocalypse again. So these places and these platforms are so important, are crucial to conscience the world through creators, through creative minds, through intelligent people talking about truth, of being and pursuing liberty and pursuing happiness through liberty.
Jesús, how do you negotiate the contradictions that you have in Spain today? I mean, wearing you wear three broad hats. You are El País, you're a writer, you're also part of the larger literature scene and the book fair in Madrid, and you still have to represent both what you're saying, the culture of Madrid and Latin America. So how do you look at stuff that's happening, say, in Barcelona, and how do you look at the separatist work there? And is there a sense of trying to be inclusive of their sentiment as well, even if it's a minority sentiment?
Yes, of course. In Eñe Festival, I'm here because Eñe Festival, which I run, and the Festival of Ideas, which is our philosophers, and in Madrid, Eñe Festival is in Madrid, and we have a kind of what we call the window for the other languages of the state. I mean, for the Basque, for the Catalan, and for the Galician language, and we bring all these creators in Catalan, and Galician, and Basque to Madrid to speak out in their languages with their creators in order to express themselves in the capital.
So just to set the context, so Basque has always fought for their own liberty. Yeah. Basque is in the highlands, in the north, bordering France, and then of course Catalan, which is Barcelona's part of that. They've been, as you know, in the past, trying to cede from the larger Spanish Republic or the Kingdom of Spain.
Yeah, yeah. So and that's it's important to talk about these things out of Spain, because people doesn't really have to know why. But the nature of a country is plural. I mean, we are a plural country. We were raised, and we are part of a Jewish culture, of a Muslim culture, and we speak out Latin languages all over, except the Basque, because it has this own language 5,000 years ago created. I mean, it's a miracle that it's still alive. It's a treasure. How could we not integrate this and plus in Madrid, in the capital? We have, I know this in my country has been a part of, a mental separation. If someone talks non in Spanish or non in Castilian, as we call it. But I live in a country which I'm proud of having four languages. Like here you have a lot of languages, and that's part of the bubble. I feel proud of. So yeah, it's a responsibility for us to integrate these languages into the global dialogue platform that we build. And we do it in a private company of cultural management called La Fábrica, which is great, and we makes a lot of festivals, not only literature but photographic and film, and it's a huge platform of all these kind of initiatives that integrates more than disaggregates. And this is an important world. I was brought up in a world that was willing, in a country that came from dictatorship to get into Europe, to form part of Europe, I mean to integrate in the world. And now this fascist plutocracy that we are suffering, I think the key word to understand, and we don't have to let them do, is to disintegrate us. We have to be aware that they want disintegration of all these platforms in order to create egomaniac and selfish and short-minded visions of the world. So let's fight against that all the time.
Yes, absolutely. And I suspect one of the reasons why they'll never ever give up is that they drink too much of wine, and that's the freedom that they have. So.
And the food.
And
yeah,
the food is just amazing.
But let me say
God.
that Madrid now is the capital, the world capital of.
And the best razor clams you can get is in Madrid.
That's it.
Julie, Hay Festival, amongst the largest in the world, the most prestigious, amazing, with many, many editions in Zacatecas and so many other places. You folks have had a really difficult time over the past few years. You've sort of roiled from problem to problem, including the issue of funding, management. Peter had to step down. Peter's wife had to step down. How have you managed, and what's the impact been? Because this has been both an internal implosion that's then impacted the very sense of Hay. And then you've had to come in and sort of steady the ship, as you have to a large extent. That must have been super challenging, both with the board, with your colleagues who were still left, with the idea that there was all of this disquiet in an organization that was always seen to be, oh my gosh, this is Hay Festival.
Well, obviously I've got the best job in the world. So hello everyone, it's really great to be here. It's the
How many people have been to Hay on Wye, or any of the Hay festivals?
Not
Only
really.
2.
It's my first time in India, and thank you for the incredible welcome here at this festival, because it is truly tremendous and I'm in awe of it, I really am. So I've been in post for 4 years, and you can track the tumultuous history of Hay Festival just through the press if you're really interested. But most organisations go through incredible changes, and COVID hit every institution, that sat here and the rest across the world. The challenge for Hay is it's 40 years old. It started around a kitchen table with some great ideas and a 40 event strong festival in Hay-on-Wye, which is a very small world famous book town at the foot of the Welsh Mountains. So we don't have the benefit of a city, but what we do have is a green field, and we can build tents as if there's no tomorrow. And
they started in a little castle, and as she said, Hay-on-Wye is really known for its second-hand bookstores and its second-hand silver that you can pick up at £5 for 12 folks or something.
So it's kind of coined itself as the Kingdom of Hay, the first book town in the world. I'm not sure if that's quite true, but we'll go with it. I've, been in post only 4 years, but I reckon we are in the business of hope. We are all in the business of hope. And if we don't have hope, what hope is there? And we have hope because of our writers and because of our audiences. And I tend to look at a structural hierarchy in a very different way, with the board at the bottom and our audiences and our authors at the top, because we are in service of our audiences and our authors. And if they don't exist, we don't exist, and we don't need a board for sure. So turning Hay around has been very much based on thinking about our audiences and our authors, and then also our legitimacy. And for me, that's a really important word to consider, and particularly around the funding difficulty we had 2 years ago, which again was well versed in the press. But ultimately,
but just give people a background to that, because I think that's it's a very important part of our discussion. But you finish what you're saying and come back.
Well, I'll come back to legitimacy. So Baillie Gifford, an investment company, funded literature festivals in the UK, several literature festivals.
They funded 7 literature.
And we were in a phase where the environment was super important, still is, but it became very important to an active group of protesters called Fossil Free Books. And what they triggered was the almost collapse of Hay Festival on the first day of the festival. And within a 2-hour period, they had contacted sufficient authors who then wanted to boycott the festival. And we were at that point, after 2 hours of messages coming through of cancellations of authors, we were at a position where we were £500,000 of income down. And we are a charity, we have very few reserves. I inherited a position where there was minus no money, and we were trying to build. Now, what this group did was move from environmental cause and switched it overnight to Palestine and Israel. And they cited that the Baillie Gifford Company had holdings in occupied Palestine connected to Israel. And of course, authors want to protect their reputation. They don't want to be tarnished in any way. They've got their own livelihood to think about. And literally, within that 2-hour period, we could see the horizon where that was going to turn into £1 million of ticket sales. And we bring in £1.5 million in total. So we were sitting on the edge of a precipice. We spoke to the funders. We asked them to underwrite us, but they wouldn't. Because if they had, we would have carried on, and we would have salvaged what we could from the festival, and then we would have had the argument with the group. In the end, we suspended the funding from Baillie Gifford. And after the event, and that stopped the authors cancelling, many came back because the threat was removed, and the festival went on, and it was fine. We met with Fossil Free Books and sat in front of them and said, did you realise what you have done? You have prevented an opportunity for platforms for freedom of expression. This is this is the demise of freedom of expression. And if that happens in the Western world, it's going to happen everywhere. And it is happening everywhere. Now, they were a group of writers, some writers who hadn't been published, some writers who had been turned down to speak at festivals, some really aggrieved. But what was really interesting was the really good writers who were part of that group were horrified at the impact of what they had created. And that ricocheted around the UK and across the world. The funding was only 5% of our total fundraised income. It wasn't a huge amount of money. And we had to make that judgment once we hit $500,000. That was way more money than they were giving us anyway. So we had to make that choice. But after the aftermath of that was our audiences wrote in and said, you were weak, you should not have given in. Obviously, they didn't understand the circumstances. Our staff had death threats. I had a death threat. The whole protest group attached to the far right were on the march to Hay-on-Wye to have a massive protest. You know, it was big. It went kind of viral in that sense. And this is a little town on the border of England and Wales, an international book town with a festival. And this was happening in our world. So kind of fast forward from there, this word that I use a lot is legitimacy. What's our legitimate position as a festival? What are we here to do as a charity? What's the legitimate position of inviting a particular author or a person with many ideas? Why do we invite them? Let's be clear about why we are inviting people and why those opposing views need to be on the stage, whether audiences like it or not. And as colleagues have said here, you can pitch up or you can go home in that case. So the audience decide with their feet what they want to listen to, what ideas they want to explore. This is long form. Sitting for 50 minutes having a debate is a long form way of understanding the world compared to flicking through your phone, being on social media. So as I said, we're in the business of hope, and we need to be clear about our legitimacy, and then we can defend our position, but we can also be the future leaders for a very hopeful future, as long as we can still enable those discussions and debates on our platforms.
You know, what she said in terms of funding, it's something that impacts us all. So many years ago, we had ZTV, who was our funder. And we're very clear with our funders or our sponsors right from the beginning that they have no say in the program. But we had a lot of protests. A lot of writers and professors used to do a boycott call. And the same thing happened when we invited Salman Rushdie here. There was a whole call for a boycott, which sort of played out. And at the end of the day, there were cases against us, which continued forever and ever. But that's the nature of the beast. In London, Julie, we had Vedanta as our sponsor in the first few, or not in the first year, but in the third year. Not that they were a sponsor, but they used to host some dinners and we carried their logo. And in the middle of the South Bank Royal Festival Hall foyer, a group of people came in at the opening, threw red paint, saying that it was the blood or whatever. There was huge protests. I was standing with the cops and I was saying to them, whatever, they're doing whatever, that's okay, don't arrest them, it'll make more news. And he said, arrest them. They have been given money till 11 o'clock and then they will leave. Yeah. And that broke my heart because I grew up protesting. Much of my university life I was protesting and going to prison. And this broke my heart. Fast forward to JLF New York, where again we had invited a writer, a Dalit writer, which is from a minority community here, who was also seen to be a right-wing voice, as a member of parliament, and a Muslim woman who was also part of the right-wing party. And there was a whole protest against these two. And again, there were these protesters, cold night. I went out and I said, please come in. We're going to give you a platform to say what you're protesting about, because that's important as well. But come and share your points. And and some of the women who were protesting said, well, our time is up in half an hour and we're off. And it just blew my mind that you have all of these others who are brought out there, paid for by whoever is being paid for, and we just stood firm, right through. It's taken some amount of attrition on us for having to stay firm, but we're very clear, and I've always said to my colleagues who keep telling me to shush, I said, we have to do as festivals what we have to do. They have to do what they have to do, which is file cases, arrest you, beat up on you, death threats, etc. But if we start now double thinking that if we do this, they will do that, that's the end. That's the end of platforms. And I've also continuously told people who try and put pressure on us to rescind an invitation, that today you put pressure on us to rescind an invitation on A or B or C person, tomorrow that same pressure will come back on us to stop you from speaking, which is something that came to pass here in this place. So, one of the things I keep advocating to is unity between our platforms and all of us coming together to say, draw the line. Is there good money? No, there isn't. If there's no good money, they ain't coming to us, let me tell you. Those who protest that, we take money from A or B or C, I say to them, are you not using government resources? If you're using government resources and you're not protesting, governments are the worst when it comes to environmental degradation, when it comes to mining, when it comes to human rights, when it comes to civilian attack. They are the worst, and it doesn't matter which part of the world you're in, irrespective. So if you are looking and using any government amenity, then, think about what you're doing, because when you put platforms like this at risk, it really, as you said, Julie, it stops allowing voices to be heard, conversations to be had. And if you do not have conversations, how will we evolve as a society? How will we push back on hatred? How will we stem the kind of violence that we are seeing, be it gender, be it other castes, religions, etc.? Literature, conversations, dialogues is really the way to go.
And just to absolutely agree with you, but also the West can't be arrogant about freedom of expression. With the pressure from the US right now, we have a festival in Dallas, and a lot of the writers felt they couldn't really say what they wanted to say in the US. And then obviously we're part of the kind of NATO pact, and we've got Ukraine and Russia. We are surrounded by political doctrine that could absolutely remove freedom of expression from Europe. And I agree with you, we are fighting for this. This gets me out of bed in the morning, very determined, double down. I love your comments. But ultimately, we've got to fight for this. We've got to fight for these platforms, enable you to hear a diverse range of viewpoints and opinions, and make your own minds up about the world and what's out there for you. But if we stop doing that, where does that happen?
Absolutely. This year, last year at JLF, one of the JLF editions in the US, the president of that particular university said to me, Julie, last year we said no to Palestine. This year, can we say no to gender, environment, justice, constitution, rights, civil liberties? And our suggestion from the academic board is, would you consider doing this year's theme as agriculture? This is the United States of America. Normally, by which time I tend to freak out, shout and scream. For once I was quiet, thought about it, and I said, what a good idea. Let's do agriculture and slavery, agriculture and gender, agriculture and tariffs, agriculture and migration. They said, no, that's not what we meant. I said, let's go back to the program. So we need to stay the course. Biswajit, Calcutta, the sort of stronghold of culture, of literature, of agitation, of revolution. But you are in a place that already has 3 other festivals. Tell us a little bit about how you set this up, what's unique about it, and Calcutta, despite the fact that it's this place of revolution and intellectual thought, if you are a cartoonist or a satirist, you can still get arrested.
Okay, thanks Sanjay and thanks JBM for having me here, and good afternoon everyone. So Sanjay, as you rightly told, I think Kolkata may be the city of festivals these days, right? I mean, at a time, multiple festivals going on, and there are also 2 quite big established literary festivals which are happening in January. Then why River of Words? So we are also a translation-focused publishing organization, and if you look at, I mean, unless you get a Booker Prize or anything similar to that, who remembers the names of the translators? I mean, you read a book, you say, okay, this is Pamuk, but who has translated it? So one of the reasons that we thought of doing a multi-city, we said confluence, though, River of Words, where we'll be focusing on the craft of translation and spotlight on the translators. Because as we are building these translated books from many different languages, it is very important that we build, increase the capacity, and also get the translators known, yeah, we are valued, we are here, and we need to connect. And same goes when I'm talking about the translator. If you see, also it goes the people who are writing in languages other than English. I mean, the most famous writer probably in Bengal will not be known. Today's writer, I mean, Tagore, Sarachandra, people will know, but today's famous writer,
Devi, etc., will also be known.
To some extent, will not be known in maybe in Assam, which is very close, right? So, the River of Words we have conceived to ensure that we are creating a platform for translators as well as introducing authors from different languages. And that itself is also, as you can understand, if you talk about funding, is a big issue, because who will be sponsoring an event where you will be having people, most important people who are nameless, means people can't recognize. So we have the problem of funding. When our the River of Words, it started in 2025. So there is the first problem of funding. And then second problem is even the audience. I mean, you don't have a big name to draw people in, then you won't even get the audience and cannot start the dialogue, which is very, very important. So we knew that this is going to be a challenge that we have to address. And just like we knew when we started this publishing house that building this translation capability from many languages to many languages, it is a difficult journey, but somewhere we have to start the journey. And that's what we started.
Fabulous, fabulous. Big round of applause. Where is it based? Where do you host the festival? Where does it run?
So, first of all, our plan is to have a multi-city festival. So first year we did one in Kolkata, and it happened at Kolkata Center for Creativity. We are very happy that we could collaborate with few, and Kolkata Center of Creativity gave us the space, and we also started collaborating with a couple of institutes. We are focusing on language. That's how we started.
Fabulous. Congratulations on that. Laura, you come again from one of the most difficult parts of the world, Hong Kong, where if you even breathe in a different way, you may well get arrested and taken away. And in recent times, the kind of cases that have been brought out against the protesters and the pro-democracy protesters, we're seeing they've been put away for 15 years, for 20 years. And yet within that, you're still being able to run the Hong Kong Literary Festival. Tell us a little bit about how you navigate the complexities of not just China, but also within Hong Kong itself and the different communities that they are there, and how do you sort of find a way to still get people to talk about what they need to talk about?
Thank you for this very big question. And also, thank you so much for having me here. I hope our festival is March 1st to 8th. And I hope I have as much energy as you do at the end of my festival. I can't believe you're still going, so you're amazing, Sanjoy. Yeah, Hong Kong is an intricate place. There's a lot going on. It's a very multicultural city. And yes, everybody knows what's been happening over the past few years. It's a city in transition, and I think, you know, in some ways, everybody is just a little bit lost in sort of what is the right direction, where do we go? And I think from my perspective of running a festival, and maybe coming from a perspective of somebody who is also a writer, that's how I sort of got my start in the festival, I'm also an educator, is that it is important to have writers. And I kind of feel when I was given this job at the festival, not a lot of people wanted to take it. And it was a very big opportunity for me. And I just felt like if somebody doesn't take this festival and nurture it or just keep it going, then there won't be a festival. And there are so many creative writers, there are so many stories in Hong Kong, there are so many cultures that come together, and it's really important that people have that space and that agency to want to write and feel confident about it. So my approach to the festival is not thinking every day about you know, what controversy could happen or who's going to say or not say this thing. Of course, it's on my mind, but I really try to just push it away and focus on this idea that we're human and we need to tell stories and we need to have spaces. So really, as much as it's like the only thing anyone ever asks me as well is like, oh, like how do you do this? And I'm really like, well, I don't walk towards that either, right? I have to curate a program that's for my city. And my city is not a democratic city where you can stand on this box and say whatever you want. And I also don't have a lot of direction on like what it is people should say or not say. It's something that's it's common sense. I know what the law is. I've chosen to live in Hong Kong. I am originally Canadian. And a lot of people that live in Hong Kong, they do have their own opinions, their personal opinions that might not be exactly the same as the government of Hong Kong or China. But you know, you work with what you have, and I'm just trying to work with what I have and keep the spirit of writing and communication alive.
You know, I know that certainly at India by the Bay, and we collaborate for some of our spoken word programs, we're very conscious about the way we program. And at the end of the day, we have to send off everything to the government. We have to get permissions to be able to get all of the work that we do during the India by the Bay Festival. So when you have thought about inviting somebody or you've been impressed by a piece of writing, etc., what's your process in terms of, do you then have to second guess whether they will get a visa to come in, or do you have a backup plan?
I think we do the best that we can as programmers to sort of, you know, look into people's background, what's on their social media, you know, if they're, you know, people that we think might be problematic. You know, it's just a reality of how it is. I don't necessarily want to bring someone to the festival that could end it. We are a charity organization. The government is our biggest funder, though they don't give us a lot. It's what is keeping the festival going as well. So, you know, it's just like you have to program for Hong Kong, and that is just, those are the guidelines that I'm running by. I'm not the festival director to change the world or to change what's happening in Hong Kong. Yeah, I just...
And where is it hosted? Is it in one venue, many venues?
We are in multiple venues. We don't have the luxury of this beautiful, beautiful space here in Jaipur. But yeah, we're a charity organization. Our mission is to encourage reading, writing, and communication and language. So we have to find venues all across the city. Hong Kong is one of the most expensive cities in the world in terms of rent and space, as well as very limited. So it's all over Hong Kong, lots of different venues. It's a little chaotic putting it all together, but it's a lot of fun.
And it's a fabulous city with fabulous food. Lavinia, you sort of now come from what, in the way that we've been discussing, the freedom place in the world, which is Berlin. What are the challenges that you have to face? Because you two have a number of challenges. We have NATO, we have the European Union issues, you have Ukraine, you have Russia, you have America trying to beat up on everybody. And then within Germany, of course, you have all of your integral issues, including the growing rise of the right. So how do you negotiate?
Well, thank you so much for being here. It's so inspiring to be at the Jaipur Literature Festival, and it's so inspiring to hear all the different ways to do a festival. And first of all, I think to navigate through all this question is to have a good network. This is a good network. The Global Association of Literature Festival is a fantastic network. I have a brilliant network in Berlin and in Germany. And the question of how we exchange grew a lot. So we do a lot of exchange. And still, I also think I have the most beautiful job in the world, because Berlin is such a beautiful city and it's really a free city. Julie keeps asking me, do you still have freedom of speech? And I say, yes, especially in Berlin. Of course we have freedom of speech. But what changed, especially I think after 7th October, and we had a couple of quite difficult events in Berlin going on with lots of trouble afterwards. And of course, for heaven's sake, I had quite a lot of time to prepare myself. What we do much more is communication. We do a lot of communication to our stakeholders. We do a lot of communication to the team. We do a lot of communication to the authors. They ask us, of course, do you also have Palestinian authors coming? Do you also have Russian authors coming? And the point is the beauty of the festival, of international festival as we have it here, and is that we have all this. Apart from fantastic literature, I think this is the foremost thing to have, but to have all these different point of views which come together, and it changes your mind, it changes your heart, and it makes you think, I never thought about this. And it really learns you empathy. It learns you what is humanity. It teaches you what is humanity, and this really brings us together. But what we also did in the festival, we changed a couple of things, because, as you said, the problem is really the social media. I think this is a moment which is such a danger for our business. And we always had the policy, the festival always had the policy, no social media during the events. But we went quite strict on that. So we communicated very friendly beforehand to our audience that please, and we say it at the beginning of each session, please take your phones away, relax, enjoy. This is a physical meeting. We are in a physical room. So people are much more open when they talk, and people listen much more. And I think it's all about listening, actually, in the end. Really, we have to learn to listen again. And then I think everything is possible.
Yeah, go ahead. One quick question again. Can you tell us a little bit about the funding that you get for the Berlin Festival?
Yeah. Also here we had a huge change. When I came, the funding was mostly from government. It's still nearly half, but we did a huge diversification of the funding. So we have lots of different foundations, we have sponsors now, and this really helps. I think it makes it, you said that also when we had this meeting with the book fair, we have to be prepared. What we have in all these talks in Germany at the moment, when cultural institutions have exchange, of course there is a fear of the right of the AfD, and what will happen when they win elections in Sachsen or in Thüringen and so on. And one point is not to be depending on them, on the funding. This is very important. So as you said, it's my festival, so I never would say that, but we have another history. But to be independent in the funding. And the other word we use a lot is resilient. As you said, then stand there, do your thing, go on. It's very important.
So more and more now, certainly with multinationals who come to us, we've been saying to them, you know, don't just look at in one country doing this with AB. Why don't you look at it as a policy to be supporting festivals or literature festivals or arts festivals across the globe so that it becomes part of your brand. So people like Absolute Vodka, etc. now are doing much more of that on Rolex, etc. And we're trying to see if there's a way that we can put together. Sadly, the thing is that they then come back and said, will you take responsibility for other festivals? And we're saying, no, you need to do that separately. But maybe that's a conversation we should all have, that if there is something that we can do collectively and say, hey, if you give us X amount of money, if in the UK, this is what we'll do, in Americas, we'll do this, then Europe, we'll do that, in Indonesia and Malaysia and Australia, we'll do that. Maybe that's one way of being able to make this work somewhat differently. So let's give that a thought. Thank you. Anjani, the newest festival in the block in a sense, or not so new actually, Vadodara, tell us how you started the festival. You're in essence in Gujarat, and all of us think, oh, are you allowed to speak at all in Gujarat? And can you have different points of view at all reflected in Gujarat? So tell us some of your challenges.
Absolutely. First of all, it's an honor to be here, and thank you so much for having me. Little bit context about the not-profit that organizes this. We've been there since 2011, and we've been working not in literature space, but otherwise with high school and college students in 108 cities in India. But in pandemic is when, you know, we saw these students just consuming content all on social media, moving away from books. And that's when we thought that, you know, we must have literature festivals, get them to read books again. And that's where we conceived this youth literature festivals, which we do in 5 cities, and the biggest one in Vadodara. It's completely for high school and college students. And it is done by students themselves. It's very career focused. That's how we try to attract them, that look, you are a finance student, you may not like reading a book, but this is a finance author who's written something on finance, come and you'll get some kind of career guidance. That's how the whole programming works. Now, coming to Vadodara, yes, it is a state which has a tinge of saffron, and we do face a lot of issues.
A wash of saffron.
A wash of saffron. And, but it is very important because these are first-time voters. Our audiences are first-time voters. They are very, very impressionable. And it's very important to keep that independent thinking in them. It's always good to have a balance of, you know, if you have a Amish party, you have to have a Devdutt Patnaik. But when we've done that, we've, you know, I remember when we invited Devdutt sir, we got a call. He also got a lot of calls, tweets, threats, etc. But we were like, we have to have him. And that, you know, gave us a push that we must have him even more, and people who speak their mind like that. Our founder himself traveled with him all the way from Mumbai. And like you said, resilience is something that we must have. The idea is that these students get to hear from both the sides, make their choice, and that is what we want to do with these youth literature festivals, get students to have that independent thinking. And our main goal is to make them better readers so that once they have that kind of paying capacity, they then invest their time and energies and then come and travel to your festivals as adults. So that is our main goal, to create better audiences for all of you and hopefully create a better generation which doesn't get washed in any color.
Tell us a little bit about your funding model.
It is mostly self-funded by our founder, Rishab. We also have a very good hands-on advisory board led by Dr. Tharoor. We have, Nader Godrej, Deepak Parekh from HDFC. So they also help. So it's not very dependent on sponsors. Outside sponsors, it's all within the system. And also we tie up with educational institutions as a host venue, so that takes care of the infrastructure cost. And yeah, that's how we're able to survive.
Shubha, which brings us to you. Mysuru is one of the most beautiful places, and like I said, it's a perfect festival city. It's close to Bangalore now with that new highway. I think we took 2.5 hours. Of course, it took 2 hours to leave Bangalore, but then 2.5 hours to get to Mysuru. You've been able to establish a really beautiful festival. Tell us a little bit about it, and then tell us a little bit about the politics that you also have to encounter in Mysore or Mysuru.
See, I'm not a woman of words, and there is 1 minute, 17 seconds.
It's okay. Don't worry about the 1 minute.
Yeah. So I'm getting ready for the 10th year now, and the year when I started, the first thought I had was all of us can't be in every place all the time like Sanjoy. He's unique. Like, when she was saying, I was just thinking, Sanjay is unique. He can't be replicated. He can't be Xeroxed. He can't be, he's special. Anyway, so that is why this magic of books is there everywhere. That is how the carpet of magic of books. I'm very humbled and very honored to be running this literature festival in Mysore, which is heritage city. Of course, I do run into a lot of conflicts, a lot of things and all that. And the best part is...
Give us an example, Shubha, just to share. Yeah.
Okay, there was this one author whom I think all of us know, Perumal Murugan. He was invited by a group in Bangalore, and then there was a strike, and those people had to call off the literature festival. And then 2 months later, I was having him, and the whole lot of Bangaloreans came because they were very sure that there's going to be a scene. And I had no clue, and I just went about it, and of course, I had everything in place, the security and everything. And now, those guys who had to cancel are running the second literature festival now, and every time they begin, they'll say, Om Shubhaya Namaha. I mean, not on the stage, but it's like, so it's, when you said we all have to get united, I would say definitely yes. The directors of the festival, we have to have that unity to stand by each other, to let each other know what are the strengths and what can go wrong. And of course, there is this, in Mysore, there is this right wing and left wing divide is too much. And I do get questioned, and then they also ask me that, how is that you're calling this person and why not that person, or why that person, why not this person? These questions go on, and phone calls, all these things keep happening, but maybe because of my background. I'm a professional textile consultant, and everything that goes out of India goes through me. So I'm in Bangalore thrice a week. About twice a week I'm in Delhi. So I'm in between Mysore, Bangalore, Mysore, Bangalore, Mysore, Bangalore, Delhi, Mysore, and I'm back home to pack my son's lunchbox, and then I'm back in Bangalore. So, and then, so I've learned to juggle, and it's the 10th year. I do the Children Literature Festival separately. I run all these small events for the colleges and everything. Everybody in Mysore now reaches out to ask for any kind of advice, the medical college, the law college, the JSS Swamiji, everybody. And the first Nobel Prize winner, Venki Ramakrishnan, before coming here, he came to Mysore because he had promised me in 2019 that he will be coming, and then the COVID happened. And he came, and I was the first one to hold the public event for a Nobel Prize winner, where we had people traveling from all over the country. And then I told some of them who could not meet him to come here to the Jaipur Literature Festival, because he was coming here and he was going to speak at 2 stages. So like there's a lot of things, and the funding for us is through, mine is a charitable trust, and we have Friends of the Literature Festival, and it's through that, and my family and some of my pay also just gets generated. And I also run the book clubs. I run book clubs for the orphanages, slums, differently abled, and senior citizen homes. All these are done through the charitable trust which I run. So I have segregated 2 trusts. One is the book club trust, and one is the literature festival trust. So I have 2 separate set of trustees whom I tell and they listen. Very rarely they have inputs, which I do listen, but most of the time I'm telling them what is best for the city and best for us. And of course, I have the book club for the people like us, and our children book club is doing extremely very well. Like I had a children literature festival in November where we had a turnout of about 9,000 people. In every session, I didn't know how to accommodate them, where to accommodate them, because I had chosen a venue which is a new thing in Mysore where it can accommodate about 500 to 800 people. So immediately I had to organize for the stages and the screens and everything like that. And then, I extended to the next day, and the whole total of the children attending came to almost about 48 to 50,000. So Mysore, it already has a lot of university-run programs and things like that, but even then there is this dearth. And we have a lot of infrastructure, but people from Bangalore travel to Mysore to be with us, and Sanjay Roy is going to be there at our 10th Literature Festival. Maybe he'll be inaugurating it also.
So a big round of applause to all our wonderful festival directors. I'm going to ask Manisha to take over from me and just take questions, because my colleague Karthik has been glaring at me from the door. I'm supposed to be somewhere else. But again, a very big thank you for everything that you all do. A very big thank you to you all on behalf of us, and all our wonderful delegates and speakers at the Jaipur Bookmark, to Manisha, Samohan, Sejal, and all our friends and partners and volunteers here. Manisha, take over, and we'll take some questions and take them in clusters.
Sorry, I have to go as well. I have a flight to catch,
I'll see you all in the evening.
See you. So after such a comprehensive session, if people still have questions, then clearly our speakers haven't done their job well. But if there are questions, please raise your hands, Nijesh, and introduce yourself and keep the questions short.
Hi, my name is Nijesh. I'm from Sapna Book House in Bangalore, and I had a very enriching experience listening to each one of you. I just had a question with regard to consistency versus innovation. As festival owners, all of you need to be very consistent year after year to provide the right enriching experience to the readers, to the authors, to the publishers, to your sponsors. How much of innovation play comes in the picture? Or you believe that being consistent is a safer play, considering so much of compliances, so many issues that all of you spoke about today? So innovation in festivals, how much of that is important versus being consistent and ensuring that we have a good festival is important? So I open it up to anybody to answer to me.
Who would like to take that? Which of you would like to take that?
So one way, when you say innovation, is I thought innovation, how you organize your festival. So as I told earlier, since ours is a translators only festival, so how do we get more people to be really into the dialogue, right? So our festival is organized, not only discussions like that, but also engagement which can bring students or practitioners to really talk about their craft. So there the audience is also now becomes the participants and sharing. So this is a way we try to innovate in order to get the engagement of people, audience, which is otherwise would be missing.
So we always change. We always evaluate after the festival. How can we learn what from the perspective from the audience? We do a lot of questionnaires with the audience, with the authors, with the team, with the stakeholders, and we have to change. This is the way it is.
I'm going to add my 2 bit. Please go ahead.
In order to, you have to be, in constant change and very, looking for what kind of an audience you're looking for, because for example in Enye we have a 16-year history, and we have a very, very consolidated audience, but with a certain age. And nowadays we are challenging in search of new audiences, very young audiences, and that's why you have to be always very curious about new names, new voices, new writers, new filmmakers that connect with these new audiences in order to, let them talk in them and bring them to the festivals in order to gather all these new audiences that you need to be alive.
So, like I said, I was going to add my 2 bit here. You have to consider the returning audience and the new audience, and that is really pretty much the balance that you have to strike, because essentially your question is about the brand and what you expect out of a brand. So I used to run a children's literature festival which continues to run very successfully, and children are any person from age 3 to age 16. Yeah. So to sort of keep them engaged variously, to program accordingly so that there is something for the 3-year-old while the 16-year-old is listening to a young adult author or whatever. So I think you constantly have to innovate in terms of the variety and the diversity of programming that you have to do so that you keep the returnees happy and you bring in the new ones and keep them engaged, I think, if that answers your question.
And they're all welcome from 6 to 90 years old, so.
Anybody else?
Innovation is something which is always running in my mind at least. So, because as everyone said, we want the audience to repeat and the new audience to come back and then, come, and the people who are already there for them to go back and talk about it. And then you have to have something new every year so that, it's not just for the audience, even for you, because you want to give the best to the society. Like AI is such a new subject that everybody all the time wants to listen to that now. So, listen and learn. So,
anybody else? One last question. I'm getting signals from my crew saying it's almost time, but anybody has a question, please?
Before he asks the question, thanks to Manisha, Sammohan, who's your new father, and Manshad and Sejal, thank you for putting such a beautiful bookmark together for all of us to be here.
Yeah, hello. So I'm Dr. Ankit Gupta. I'm an urban practitioner. So my thing is that we are losing, like AI is coming in, and as very rightly said, that the generation is changing and the people are changing. What is what you guys see as a challenge for the upcoming generation, especially when you want to put them and bring them out to a venue, out of their mobile phones, out of their cocoons or the rooms, to be there at a venue? So what are the challenges that you guys are facing in terms of the audience? That's where I would like to.
A really great question and incredibly topical, in that it's something we discuss a lot at Hay Festival. And I think one of the things that we have is the power to bring people together. And there is nothing like a lived experience. So our experience across the world is that young people actually want to get together and experience things together so they actually have some content to use on social media. Perversely. I think AI as a tool is great in the background as a kind of an assistant to our worlds and certainly to the world of publishing. I think there is a kind of, it's a bit like when you're younger being immunized, there are things you don't want to do, and all the writers are very keen not to have AI copy any of their work. So I think it's a really difficult space to navigate, but I'm sure others have got ideas on how they're doing it in their organizations.
Maybe I want to add something to the innovation, and also just now they asked how for us to raise our children for the future. But I think the first thing, I believe that you have to start with the intention. Once you have the right intention, you will get your heart to have more full of empathy. Then that will give you, once the intention is clear, the method will appear. Just for today, I have been looking at Hay because my Royal Highness asked us to go there. And suddenly I see you today, So it's the power of intention. And I learned a lot. And I'm just about to do the festival for the children, as I said just now. And suddenly I think that fulfill everything. So I would like to say thank you to Gita, where's Gita, who introduced me, just a friend who really, he came to festival last 2 years with the husband and told me, you know what, you have to go to Jaipur. And I really thankful for it. So thank you very much for all of you sharing, and I hope that I will commentate with you and will invite you guys to come to Selangor one day, to Malaysia. Thank you, inshallah.
Well, to answer that, actually, you use exactly what's keeping them hooked. You use the phones. You bombard them with more social media about the festival. Basically, fear of missing out is what you try to capitalize on. You show them a trailer of what it can be. You essentially, what you've just pointed out, they need more content. So you give them a platform that this is where you can experience this and probably interact with more people and open up new avenues, more collaborators, so to speak.
On that note, can I just add?
Oh, yeah, this is
no, it's okay. I think I'm loud enough to be heard. I've been teaching for 22 years, throwing my voice. Anyway, I just wanted to add that, on that note, how impressed we have as a team been with the volunteers and the number of young people who have been participating in this fair. And they're not just there to just help around. They are so knowledgeable and enthusiastic. And I think that's brilliant. That is a huge achievement, I feel. And personally, thank you to everyone in those apple green vests. Thank you so much.
So that's a perfect segue with which to say thank you to the volunteers yet again. They're really the heartbeat of the festival. They oil the wheels in manners that we don't even know sitting in the room. They're constantly on their feet, and Teamwork Arts has a very solid program in how they are selected as well as trained. And year on year, they have helped the festival to grow in ways known and unknown. So really, really thank you to the volunteers. I'm also going to take this occasion to thank my absolutely superlative team. There is Mohan standing there, there is Manshad, there is Sejal, and there are the whole team of volunteers who've kept this venue warm, intimate, welcoming. I hope you all felt welcomed and come again to the festival. And I think we really need to close now.